Boaters, what's going on, everybody? This is Pauly from All Docked Up. Hopefully everybody's crushing it out there. Season's opening, and we never, ever start a podcast, ever do a podcast without the one and only Captain Buzz.
What an introduction. Thanks, Pauly. How's everyone doing out there?
I had to give you that love tonight because not for nothing, the dinner that you made tonight, you deserved that all day long. Guys, I was spoiled rotten tonight, and I'm going to let Buzzy talk about. Son of a bitch.
So last week on our podcast, we had Captain Brandon from Towboat US, and Pauly
he was the man.
He was
He's
really
the
good.
man.
Yeah, we're going to have him
Brandon,
back again.
yeah.
He was good. Great information, and we know he's got a lot of great stories, so we will have him back. But you made the penne and the meatball, dude. I know I might get in trouble, and you may not be able to tell your family, but you got to help me make a meatball like that.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's all about the beef, pork, and veal, buddy.
Oh,
you don't mess around.
They were just melting your mouth. Okay, so and I said to Paul, it's my turn this week to cook. And
yeah, they heard me breaking your balls last week. I was like, it's about time. Right. I was going to give you one of these and one of those, but then I let you go.
It's my turn, and I'm not without skills. I've spent some time in the kitchen, the professional kitchen. And
Buzzy, you graduated from CIA in New York, for the love of shit. I think that qualifies you as a professional. Buzzy, by the way, he's being modest. He's an executive chef. Buzzy.
Well, yeah. So I can cook, whatever, and I know you can too. And so we're back and forth on this. So it was my turn.
You're being a fajit.
You
really are.
I fired up the smoker this afternoon, and I threw a couple pork tenderloins in the smoker.
When you sent me that picture, when I was buffing that boat today, my mouth was watering. I was starving.
So what we did, I made smoked pork tenderloin, and I made a compound butter with lime scallion compound butter. We had sauteed spinach with garlic. We had risotto with Parmesan cheese, and we had a pineapple mango salsa.
Dude, it was a mouthful of flavors.
It was good.
It was badass.
Yeah, it was really good.
I love pork tenderloin. That was good, and that smoke was nice. It wasn't a heavy smoke.
Yeah,
it was a nice light smoke, which I enjoy.
For a pork tenderloin, because you don't want it. It's not like you have to cook it like ribs and get it to where it's tender. It's already tender. So you're putting a light smoke on it. I pulled it out at 140 degrees because I knew I'd have to bring it over here and reheat it. And I'm happy. It turned out good. So I'm glad it was my turn, and I was able to give you some good eats.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what, oh my God, last night I had Alaskan king crab legs and shrimp. You've
been eating pretty good here, dude.
I'm spoiled rotten.
That you are.
There's no doubt about it.
All right, so we've got a couple of great topics for you this evening. Let's get into the captain's briefing. And this one's really simple, but you wonder how people get into trouble, but it's simply hydration. Drinking enough water. When you're out on the boat and you're running down and the wind is wicking the moisture away from you and the sun's beating on you, you can really get dehydrated quickly. And I know it sounds just so basic.
It sounds corny. Let's get real, right? It sounds corny. But at the end of the day, every boater right now drank too much prayed to God they would have drank more water that day. And there's nobody who can say that, like, yeah, when you wake up the next morning and peel your face off of a pillow, there's not one person, honestly, that's listening to us right now that's going to tell me that they've not made that mistake because they didn't drink enough water.
Well, and Pauly, I'll tell you, with my wife, when we're on board, she's passing out water all the time. Hey, make sure you.
It's a shot. Hydrated. I do a bottle of water. You see me do. He's like, how do you do that?
I don't know how you do that.
It's got to go.
So a quick story. Now this is a long time. This one I had the 280, and you and myself and another guy were on the dock. It was like a Saturday morning. We're the only ones on the dock. We're going, let's go for a boat ride, and we just hopped in and we went all the way down to Rock Hall. But the problem was it was such a spur of the moment. We didn't have enough water on board.
Well,
and we were peeling our faces.
How deep
off
do you
pillows.
want to dive into that story? Guys, we're sitting in Chesapeake City going, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And like, we got to do something. It's a beautiful day. Jennifer was traveling that weekend. She was not aboard. And I remember she said, Pauly,
we're getting into trouble.
Watch my husband this weekend because we know how you do your little wine. Yeah, I'm going to the bathroom. Bullshit. You're going to go disappear after a night of cocktails. You're so full of it. And that was spare the moment. And we had a ball. We went to Waterman's.
We didn't have
enough water. To Rock Hall. We had a great time. Unfortunately, not enough water on board, which could have saved me.
Yeah. And then that was, anyway, the bottom line, hydrate. It'll make you feel better the next day. You won't get as tired. Very important. Mr. Detailer, what's our detailer's briefing for this week?
I'll tell you what, guys, when you're buying yourself a boat today, I detailed a Monterey over at Bow Vista off the Bohemian. And it was a 2019. And I wasn't, concerned. It's fresh, right? We got a 3-year-old manufacturer. It's been out there since he bought it. And I'll tell you what, I was shocked. The amount of color that I was taking off with a simple cleaner wax.
Really?
Because the boat for its year, had no reason to be compounded whatsoever. It was too fresh.
Yeah, but had the boater applied at least a coating of wax every couple of months to take care of it?
Here's what ended up happening. When I looked at the job originally, after I started buffing into the boat, seeing the color that was coming off, there was neglect. And everybody, I got a blue hull. You got a blue hull. Oh. It looks beautiful when it's polished, but I'll tell you what, I busted my ass on that boat. Topside interior needed a lot of help. But the worst part about it is scrubbing that thing down. Okay. The drain plug on the back of the boat. Okay, guys, always check your drain plugs after a boat's sitting throughout the course of the season. Water builds up down there like it's not good.
Okay, so wait a minute, because we had talked about putting the plug in. You're talking about a plug that was out, but it was clogged?
Yeah, but exactly. So the boat will sit all winter long. 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, whatever the case may be, people are getting their boats shrink wrapped. So that's not necessarily a problem, but some boaters choose to use tarps. They want to do the less expensive routes. Some do a really good job, some really don't.
I agree.
The boat was just exposed to the outside weather. The mooring cover was not on the boat.
Oh.
And I didn't quite understand because it's a 2019. This is not peanuts.
It's a giant bucket, but it would have been no problem if the plug
the drain plug was out of the boat.
But it was clogged.
Oh. Okay, when I went to clean that out, there was a tremendous amount of rainwater that was just sitting in the actual boat.
In the engine compartment?
In the engine compartment.
Wow.
Sitting right below the water pump.
Really?
That much water had built up.
This is blowing my mind. It's like a boat sinking on land.
Well, I mean,
what the hell?
Boats sit on travel or boats that sit on lifts all the time. If you're not using a boat that's sitting on a lift and you got a lot of rain and there's any exposure and it's killing your batteries, you kill a set of batteries on board for whatever reason. Why the boat would be uncovered that much, I have no idea.
Sure.
But some people do. But in that particular case, if you're not checking on your boat and it's just sitting there for a period of time, those batteries go dead. And there's no built-in battery charger that you're connected to a 30-amp power source on the dock.
Right.
I'm telling you, a boat will literally fill up with water sitting on the travel lift. Why? Because the plug's in.
Or a trailer, or on the hard, or anywhere.
Right. But in the wintertime, you got every marina pulls the drain plug out, make sure that the boat's on a decent tilt so it runs off nice. It keeps everything because nothing freezes. But in this case, because the boat was left open and exposed, debris got down there, clogged that hole, and filled up that engine room with water.
How about that?
But going back to the colored holes, working that hull, that was tough. But the guy behind me had a 245 Bayliner Discovery model with a hardtop. It was like the Sierra boat. Classic.
Yeah.
Like the 2859 that you have for a neighbor at the Anchorage.
Yeah, nice boat. Yeah.
He had the newer style, the Discovery model of that. This poor bastard was buffing that boat, and I got to give him credit. He's like, I watched YouTube videos that he went out and bought a cordless DeWalt, bought all the bells and whistles, hooked himself up. I got to give him a lot of credit for what
I've learned a tremendous amount on YouTube taking care of boats. But yeah, go ahead.
So he's like, I just watch YouTube, but I'm watching him buff out a blue hull. And I'm like, holy shit, this guy is, boss, you got to stop. I came over and he's like, you're going to help me, aren't you? And I'm like, I can't watch another minute of this. And I took the time. I helped him out.
That's awesome. That's solid.
We did from the stern to bow on the starboard side, gave him the whole lesson, the whole 9 yards. He was so appreciative. He was happy. He's like, here, have a beer. And I'm like, dude, I'm working. I can't do that. But He was struggling. So if you're going to go buy a new boat, honestly, either have the pockets to pay a detailer for a colored hull. Okay. The only time that doesn't happen is if you have all grip, all craft, or you're using like an Enron or a painted surface.
Sure.
A lot of the formulas are painted, right?
Right. Exactly.
So if you have that application, that's great. All grip and all craft have a product called All
Gel
Care.
coat will chalk for the color if you're not careful.
Exactly. Yeah. And keep an eye on it, guys, because once a color, whether it's blue, black, maroon, green, if they're just gel coat paint, colored gel coat and non-painted surfaces, you don't take care of them, I'm telling you what, Mother Nature will. Yeah. She'll trash them. Be careful with what you're buying, guys, and know what you're getting into, because there's maintenance owning a colored hull.
Well, and I think you made a good point. Either do it, protect it yourselves to keep the value of the boat, or hire a detailer,
hire a professional. And I'll tell you what, it's not easy to find. People struggle finding good, service providers. Hence, what All Docked Up is doing.
That's what we're trying to do.
We're putting together a complete list of vendors, and we're going to cover the bay. We're going to cover it all and make sure that the boaters get what they need.
All right, so we had Captain Brandon last week, but the podcast before that we had teased out the Gobius Pro.
Yeah.
Right. So and I have a waste tank on my 420, and the monitor has never worked since I'm the second owner of the boat. It's never worked, and so I did some research, and we found this thing called the Gobius Pro. It's made in a company in Sweden. There's a couple distributors here in the U.S. And so I did my work, and I watched some YouTubes, because that's a lot of how they teach you how to do it. A lot of people
go on YouTube all the time
it works.
To whatever find their information. YouTube can be a savior.
So, and I appreciate Pauly, because you were with me this past weekend.
You were, Pauly, we got to do an installation, and then you had made mention of the waste tank, and I'm like, wow. I mean, guys, doesn't it entice your buddy to come down to be like, we're going to put a tank monitor, a wireless Bluetooth tank monitor on a waste tank? It doesn't excite me very much, Buzz.
I'll give you that. The good thing is
you almost got a freshie. You almost did. I got to say that.
Well, the good news about the Gobius is it's outside the tank.
Right. That was I warmed up to it as you explained yourself.
So you need a power source, and I put an inline fuse as close to the battery as I could. It was practical, and we wired it up. And then you download the app on the phone, and boom, there it is. Now
it's shooting through the tank.
Yeah, and it works. It works with vibration, not like sonar. It's a different technology, and I don't pretend to understand the entire thing. But when you go for a reading, you hear it. It starts buzzing, and then I set it. Right, you can get multiple readings, so you could do one at a half and a quarter and 3/4. Right, you can monitor the whole tank. I chose to go with one at about maybe 7/10, right, near the top of the tank. So
yeah, you want to know when you're 90%.
Yeah, not that, a little less than 90%. When it gives me a signal, then I've got a few more flushes, but I know I got to go pump out. Right?
Yeah, it's time to pump out the pooper.
So. But the only thing we don't know, and we'll have to report back on another podcast, is that my tank is less than that, right? So I get a green light. I can, I go onto the app, and I'm green. I know that I'm fine. So until I get to until the waste level comes up to the monitor, when it tells me it's red,
right? Then
then we'll report out on its ability.
It's an actual fish. I mean, it literally is a fish. Well, it's got a red and a green eye on it.
You're right. There's an additional monitor and it's a little fish with eyes, and that simply is telling you that there's power to the unit and it's working. And I did email back and forth with Gobius a little bit, because I think there's a different way to wire it so that you can actually see the green light, before the waste gets up to the monitor, and a red light when it gets to it. I still have a little homework.
You just got to play with a little bit of the settings and investigate further. That's all.
I do. But we'll report back on how. Again, the installation wasn't terrible. The little fish, we had to run some wires through the conduit with a snake.
You got lucky as hell that C-Ray put an open piece of conduit from the helm station down into the engine room.
They're good about
you
that.
got a real. Are you kidding me, dude? That is a home run. Because yes, you will have a piece of conduit naturally, but normally it's packed, so you can't run any wire. Yeah. You got lucky.
I'll say that it's because I've got my my secondary depth sounder that runs through there too. So yes, I've used that conduit.
Yeah, when me and Jeffrey had the pleasure of wiring an F-32 Trojan, and we're trying to fish wires to put torpedo speakers on the fly bridge aft. Yeah, let me tell you how much I didn't curse that man off after that job. Oh my God, I've never seen drill bits that had to be so long in my entire life.
So we'll get back to you on that. It'll be kind of part 3 on the Gobius, right? When it gets when the waist gets above the monitor, then we'll get a thumbs up.
Well, you can pull, the old Griswold's Family Christmas, Uncle Eddie's or Cousin Eddie's over and he's full.
Okay. The next thing we want to talk about is, and this is great for new boaters. This is great for any boater, having a first aid kit on board. Again, a really simple thing. And there are many different types. You can get them at West Marine. You can get them just about anywhere. You want one that's big enough for incidents, out on the water.
I personally think that your first aid kit, depending on what the average number of people on board, you have 4 people on board, I suggest buying a first aid kit that will accommodate multiple people at one time.
That's a good call.
Okay. If you're a one-man show all the time, you have yourself a decent, small, respectable first aid kit. But if you have 4 or 5 people on board, your family, your kids, you need to look
one of those up.
You need to upgrade your first aid kit to something that's going to have that could, because there could be multiple issues or emergencies on board at one particular time if something goes wrong.
That's a good point.
So size that with the amount of people you normally have on board.
That makes good sense. And the other thing about emergencies on the water, you want to have a presence of mind and understand where the closest help might be. And so I'm teeing up.
You're going. Yeah,
because where I'm going.
You're going to a sensitive.
You're
going to a sensitive spot right about now. That I had a feeling that was coming.
Yeah, the story that well, go ahead and tell it, because I think it's important for folks to understand what happened and the mistakes that were made, and the lesson that was learned.
Dude, that was a horrible day. Like I'm not even kidding you. Me and were on board, and we were traveling with his wife. Went out for a day at anchor.
Just to go swimming and hang out.
Yeah, we were. Yeah. Oh, this is tough. This was a big time tough day. When we were rafted out, we were just singly, we were dropped an anchor for us singly.
Yeah.
Where we couldn't raft up all together because there was too much weight traffic and the boats were smacking together.
That's a pretty exposed spot.
Yeah, it's a very exposed
I know where you
spot.
were. Yeah.
What did you, Belly Button or Buttonwood Beach?
Not Buttonwood. You were just south of Wharton Creek on the main bay. There's a beautiful beach there. But not Buttonwood. That's a.
I'd like to forget that weekend.
That's a trailer park.
And wow. So when we were anchored out, his wife went to go, sunbathe on the beach. She just wanted to go lay up, and we were having a couple of beers, relaxing. I was off that day. I wasn't doing anything besides just doing a little socializing, and was laid out on the beach, and there was a gentleman that was walking his dog. And he paid close attention to her laying on the beach. And I will tell you what, there was a problem. I said to Johnny, I looked over at Johnny, I'm like, there's a problem. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, something's wrong. Something's wrong with your wife. And he looks at me like I'm crazy. I'm telling you, something's wrong. So the gentleman who was walking his dog on the beach, he looks over towards us and he flags his hand. He didn't notice right off of the bat because he was talking to friends that were tied up on his port. I'm not tied up with him, but tied off of his port side.
Boat, yeah.
And he starts waving his hands. I'm like, something's wrong. Something's really wrong, dude. He's like, what? And I'm showing him this gentleman with his dog waving his hands. So the people that we were rafted up with, one of his friends was an MD.
Oh, wow.
and we had to take their dink, go to that beach. Now, mind you, we were rafted 100 plus yards.
Oh yeah, I know.
That was afar. I mean, it was 3-4 feet.
It's shallow.
It's shallow, so you can play with
off
that.
the shore. Yeah,
We just tilted up his out drives. It was no big deal. But we took his friend's dink, went over, and his wife had a massive heart attack.
Oh,
laying out in the sun. And I will never, ever forget the look on his face when we hit that beach. I'd like to erase that from my mind.
Sure.
But guys, we got her back on board. And where we were located, we should have went to the Coast Guard station at Still Pond. And we didn't. We went to Elk Neck, launched from Elk Neck. So he decided to go back to his original port.
Right. That's an interesting point, because his instinct was to go right back to where he launched.
And it was wrong.
Yeah.
And the worst part about it is, okay, so what do you do in that particular case? You're not going to panic. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We got a woman who's down. We know there's a substantial trouble. We went back to Elk Neck, didn't go to Still Pond. We should have known. Like, there's no excuses behind that. And everybody who's listening to this, guys, you need to know where help is when you are on board. And you need to know up here, not via your cell phone, and you need to know where help is. Your Coast Guard stations, where the DNR may have a couple of boats.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes. But we did 70 plus miles an hour in 3 to 4 footers all the way back to the Elk Neck bucking tide.
Yeah, that's a rough run.
I was never so concerned and scared. And the situation progressively got worse. When we got to Elk Neck State Park, there was a DNR officer there that was checking the size of gentlemen's crabs that he pulled off board.
Oh, okay.
I swear, and I'm not a religious person, but what happened that day blew me out of the water. The ramp is naturally busy.
Sure.
People are coming in. People are going out. People are launching. People are retrieving. And we're trying to tell people, get out of our way. We have to get on this dock and move. This woman's having a heart attack.
Yeah.
There was a couple, husband and wife, that were dropping, their boat in the water.
Mm-hmm.
She gets out to help out her husband. She looks over, sees a little controversy, and she's like, that woman's having a heart attack. We weren't 100% sure. We really didn't have no idea.
Yeah, she was just unconscious and
we knew that we were having a problem. In and out.
But she knew there was a heart attack.
It was an issue.
Gracious.
She hopped out of that vehicle. Come to find out, she was a nurse.
Wow. At the dock.
At the dock.
How about that?
Oh no, and it gets more creepier than that.
Wow.
This woman went from the back of her boat on the ramp to that. I swear she took 3 steps. She took me and threw me out of the way. Guys, I'm 6 feet 2 inches tall, 265 pounds. I am not a small guy. She threw me out of the way like there was no tomorrow. The nurse starts packing ice underneath her arms to bring her core temperature down.
Wow.
For whatever reason, I have no idea.
Right.
Another woman, and this was another couple I got to give credit to, she was doing the exact same thing and retrieving a boat, and she responded as well. Now, in this time, we're waiting for EMS to show up.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and to run down the road to Elk Neck, that's a long run.
That's a long run.
Yeah.
So we're waiting, and she was very, very lucky to survive. And those 2 nurses, if they're ever going to hear this.
So the second woman was a nurse too?
The second woman was a nurse. I
goodness.
was like, I could not believe what was happening. The DNR cop that was on the scene, he was absolutely baffled beyond belief.
Wow.
But I'm telling you right now, she survived, but we should have went to Still Pond because we did not know, and that's the bottom line.
Well, I think what you're saying is very important. That it's really important to have in your head. I like what you said about that, to understand your surroundings and know where the closest help might be. Not.
I'll never forget that day.
Yeah, it's a great lesson.
And to my fault, I had, plenty more experience on board, and I should have known. Well, that's like you do the best you can out there. When you got to help, you got to help.
Yeah.
And your level of experience, you got to be on point. It just is what it is. You're a certified, United States Coast Guard captain over here. Like you do what you got to do.
You gotta know.
So guys, make sure that you know. So that was
That's
the horrifying experience. I haven't spoken about that in a long time.
No, and
they need to hear it.
Well, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Well, because
it was,
we know it was a trying situation. It turned out well. Let's.
We got lucky, Buzzy. We got lucky. There was no doubt about it.
Yeah, she survived and survives to this day, and is very grateful for what everyone did. I want to bring one more thing up, and when we're talking about safety, because and it's another story that because Pauly is the kind of guy you want to have around when something's going wrong. Because I've seen you in action, and it's amazing. And there's always someone like that in the crowd, but you are definitely that. Because I remember our old buddy Bob who had that big old Chris Craft.
That's another one,
and he was down below, and it had to be 100 degrees if it was 90. It was so hot, and he was down in his engine compartment in an old boat, and no air conditioning, and it was just so hot. But I know that what happened was he was messing around with batteries. The
batteries exploded.
Blew it up in his eyes. Yeah. And so what did you do? I mean, you had presence of mind, and you took the situation from there.
Well, yeah, I've been around some horrible situations. When those batteries blew up, the reason why they did is because he had maintenance-free batteries, left his charger on, and it was such an old school boat.
It didn't have
the charger was physically on in the panel.
It just cooked them.
It was cooking those batteries until there was no more moisture. They were dry, and it was creating gas.
Oh boy.
And he had a cigarette in his mouth. I don't know if one played a role in the other. I honestly don't know.
Right.
But the first thing, when I saw that puff of smoke and he stood up, his eyes were glazed over gray from whatever little bit of acid that was left in those batteries. And the first thing that I said is he needs to drench his eyes. I grabbed Bob, and you remember how ornery Bob was. The man was in his late 80s.
He was great.
He's that guy. He's that old salt that's on the dock. He's going to tell you how it is, when it was. And that's just the way it is, and you're not going to fight it.
Great guy.
But I grabbed him. I said, Bob, you got two options. Either I'm dunking your head in the bay, or I went to my huge first aid kit on board, and I grabbed the saline flush that I had and flushed both of his eyes out. Bob got sent. He went to the local hospital, and they transferred him to Will's Eye in Philadelphia.
Wow.
His daughter told me after the fact that if I wouldn't have done that, her father would have been blind.
How about that?
But I do have the most obnoxious first aid kit under the sun on board.
You do. And so, what we're telling these horrific stories with good endings. To give you
lose his sight.
The importance.
And it was because I had a decent first aid kit.
Of having a good first aid kit and understanding, how to use it, and some basic first aid skills, and knowing your surroundings, and knowing, where to go in an emergency.
Everybody thinks they're untouchable. But I'll tell you right now, when it comes to being untouchable on land, and when you're out on the boat in the middle of the water, that's a whole new ballgame. Guys, I'm telling you right now, it happens to everybody.
Yeah. There's a ton of new boaters out there.
Well, that's why I want them to, right.
That's why we're doing this.
Right. They got it. Yeah. Guys, listen to me. The new ones, the novice boaters that want to enjoy it, be prepared. Because you never know what can happen, ever.
Very, very true. All right. Well,
I think we completely ruined the mood on that one. So we got to get
sorry about that.
But you know what? It is what it is.
No, it's not. There's not sorries. It's important information to share. These stories that we tell, the mistakes that we've made, will hopefully help boaters avoid some of these things and be better prepared to take care of the souls that they have on board. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, especially when you got your friends down for the course of the weekend.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you what, every day that goes by, waterways are busy. Ooh. People are hype. Everybody's getting ready. Boats are getting dropped in the water. It's very cool. If you actually just go to the marina and sit down throughout the course of the day and watch guys that are picking boats up, taking them off their stands and their blocks.
Peeling shrink wrap.
Well, they're they're commissioned, they're ready to go. The owner's got the boat cleaned and she's just ready to go. Fresh bottom paint, fresh zings, fresh. Oh, I love it.
It's a nice time of year. It really is.
Especially when it was as nice as it was today.
It was a gorgeous
beautiful day. Oh my God. I had a great day. I helped another fellow boater out. It felt really cool to do it.
That was, and I know he appreciated it. And I bet the boat looks great.
Dude, he went out and bought a cordless DeWalt buffer. Now, I forgot to mention, I have the Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And his... I'll tell you
a new toy for the
there's a new toy coming into play because now, mind you, I have a 12 amp battery on my Milwaukee, and he had a 5 amp battery that was on that. So naturally, it was smaller.
What's more efficient? It's probably a couple years newer.
It was lighter. Maybe the battery technology was better. But I'll tell you what, if you have a boat that was in pretty decent shape and you're just polishing, that's all you need. Nice. You need a couple of batteries. Oh, it's a fun toy. It is a fun toy. Well, guys, I'll tell you what, another awesome podcast for this evening.
Yeah.
I know we got a little serious on you, but being out on the water is serious, and you got to know what to do when you got to do it.
Roger that. This is Captain Buzz standing by on 6-8.
And this is Pauly, and we're out. Have a good night, guys.